let's talk about change. Why do we fear it? Why do we feel we want to change and we start heading towards our change, but then we forget that we're changing? What makes change so difficult? Today we're going to look at the energy of change, and in a way that inspires us to do those things that we've been wanting to make those changes. I want you to imagine that each one of us lives in our own particular field. Now, in that field is our life, and we know that life. Now, surrounding by our field is a border, and that border is our fear. Now, it's really interesting, but the thing about emotions is that all emotions are positive and negative. So fear surrounding our border keeps us safe. Do you remember when you were a child and you were going to cross the road and your mother pulled you back? She wanted you to fear traffic because it kept you safe. So here we are in our field of familiarity, our field of comfort, where we are now. But every so often there's something that is not within our field of knowledge, our field of understanding, and it lies outside our particular field. And this is called change. So whenever we want to leave from here and to embrace change, what we want is we want to change. So what happens is we start to head towards that change, but then often we feel uncomfortable. We feel disoriented and we pull back. And that's interesting because what's happening here is as we're heading towards our border, we're starting to feel the fear that keeps us safe. So for a lot of us, we then forget about that change, or we just go back into our same patterns of being that are familiar to us. But what happens when we refuse to make those changes? Our life refuses to grow, which can be disappointing, boring, limiting. Because the point of this is that we are meant to change. Because at each time that we change, each time that we go through that boundary and we change, we become more of who we are. We don't ever lose what we know. In fact, that becomes a great support. But what happened is that we have new experience and we become bigger. Bigger in our understanding, bigger in ourselves, bigger in our lives. We become more of who we are. But if we refuse to change, if we stay within our own little fields and we refuse to go towards what intuitively we know we want, then what happens is we just stay the same. We stay the same. But what happens to a farmer who doesn't rotate their cattle or their crops in their particular field? The field begins to die. We are born to change. Just as a child changes from the very moment it's born. It continues to grow and learn. And if we hold back, if we keep those borders up strong, if we do not go through our feelings of discomfort, we limit who we are. So if you're thinking of wanting to make a change in your life at the moment, go for it. But recognize that as you get to that border of what you know, you will feel slightly uncomfortable. You know what? I always label that a learning curve. And when you do that, you're not so attached to that feeling of uneasiness. Because the feeling that you get when you make that change is so far greater, because you become more of who you are. Change, it's natural, it's a good thing, it's about growth. So don't hold yourself back. Go for what it is you feel you want. And remember, as you do, you are becoming more of who you are.